I stood outside the glass towers of Morrison Industries, watching Daniel through the conference room window on the 15th floor. He looked older now, stress lines carved deep around his eyes. Good. I wanted him to suffer like I did. My name is Joy Ibrahim and I am 32 years old. 10 years ago I was Joy Morrison, the adopted daughter who loved her stepfamily more than life itself. Today I am the CEO of Phoenix Corporation, the company that will destroy everything Daniel built. But let me start from the beginning. Before I continue, we would love to know where you are listening from. Also, if you love revenge stories, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more of these stories coming your way on a daily basis. Thank you. Now let's continue. I was 7 when the Morrisons adopted me from the orphanage. Sarah Morrison held my hand that first day, her wedding ring catching the sunlight as she promised I would never be alone again. James Morrison ruffled my hair and said I was their little princess now. And Daniel was 14, tall and protective, and he became my hero. You're my real sister now, he told me that first night when I cried for the parents I never knew. I'll always protect you. I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. The Morrisons gave me everything. Private schools, dance lessons, summer camps in Europe. They treated me like their own blood and I loved them for it. But I loved Daniel most of all. He taught me to ride a bike, helped with homework, scared away the boys who teased me. When I turned 18, that love changed into something deeper, something dangerous. I never told him. How could I? He was my stepbrother, my protector. But the heart wants what it wants, and mine wanted Daniel Morrison with a desperation that kept me awake at nights. College came and went. I studied business, graduated summa cum laude, came home ready to join the family company. Daniel was 29 then, engaged to a senator's daughter named Victoria. Beautiful, perfect Victoria with her blonde hair and trust fund. Everything I wasn't. The night before his engagement party, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I was drunk. Heartbroken. Watching the man I loved plan his future with someone else. When Daniel found me crying in the garden, when he held me close and whispered that everything would be okay, I kissed him. He kissed me back. For 3 perfect minutes, Daniel Morrison was mine. His hands in my hair, his lips against mine, his body pressed against me like he'd been waiting for this moment too. Then reality crashed down and he pulled away. Joy, we can't. This is wrong. I love you, I whispered. I've always loved you. You're my sister. I'm not your sister. I'm not your blood. I'm nothing to you. He looked at me with such pain in his eyes. You're everything to me. That's why this can't happen. We agreed to pretend it never happened. Daniel married Victoria 2 months later. I was his best man's sister, smiling in all the wedding photos while my heart shattered into a million pieces. But someone had been watching that night in the garden. Someone with a camera. The photos appeared online 3 days after the wedding. Grainy but clear enough. Morrison heir's sick relationship with adopted sister, screamed the headlines. Incest scandal rocks wealthy family. I knew immediately who had leaked them. Marcus Webb, Daniel's business partner, had always hated me. He thought I was a gold digger, a charity case who didn't deserve the Morrison name. This was his way of destroying me. But when I burst into Daniel's office, desperate for him to believe me, to fight for me, he wouldn't even look up from his computer. How could you do this to us? He asked quietly. To Victoria? To our family? I didn't leak those photos. You know I would never. Who else knew about that night? I stared at him, watching the man I loved more than life itself accuse me of the ultimate betrayal. You think I did this? You're the only one who benefits from destroying my marriage. The words hit me like physical blows. Benefits? Daniel, this ruins me too. My reputation, my future with the company. Maybe that's what you wanted. Trauma. You always were dramatic, Joy. I felt something die inside me then. Not just my love for Daniel, but my love for everything. The family who raised me, the name I carried, the life I thought I had. Get out, he said without looking at me. Pack your things and leave. Don't contact any of us again. Daniel, please. You're not my sister anymore. So I left. That night with nothing but a suitcase and the $1,000 in my savings account. Sarah Morrison had tears in her eyes when she handed me the money, but she didn't ask me to stay. James Morrison wouldn't even come out of his study. Only Daniel's wife Victoria seemed genuinely sorry to see me go. "I know you didn't leak those photos," she whispered as I loaded my car. "But Daniel is hurt and angry, and sometimes hurt people make terrible decisions. Take care of him," I told her. Because even after everything I still loved him. I drove until I reached Chicago, got a job waiting tables, slept on a friend's couch. For 6 months I was nobody. Just another girl trying to survive in a big city. But every night I planned my return. The Morrison family thought I was weak. They thought I would disappear quietly, fade into obscurity like a bad dream. They were wrong. I used my business degree to get a job at a small consulting firm. Worked 18-hour days, learned everything I could about corporate strategy, hostile takeovers, market manipulation. I saved every penny, invested wisely, made connections. When my boss offered to sell me his company 3 years later, I was ready. Phoenix Corporation started small. A few clients, a tiny office, just me and 2 employees. But I had something my competitors didn't: absolute focus. Every decision, every move, every client I pursued was chosen with one goal in mind: destroy Daniel Morrison. I studied his company like a general studies the enemy. Morrison Industries specialized in luxury real estate development, with major projects across the Midwest. They were successful but not innovative, relying on old relationships and family money. Vulnerable. I started small. Outbidding them on minor projects, poaching their junior staff, undercutting their prices just enough to hurt. Daniel probably didn't even notice at first. Phoenix Corporation was just another competitor in a crowded market. But I noticed everything about him. I knew when he expanded into commercial development, when he divorced Victoria after 5 childless years, when he started dating again. I knew about his struggles with anxiety, his father's health problems, his mother's charitable work. I knew because I made it my business to know. 5 years in, Phoenix Corporation had grown large enough to pose a real threat. We'd stolen 3 major contracts from Morrison Industries, hired away their best architect, and opened offices in their key markets. The industry was starting to notice the pattern. "Someone's got it in for the Morrisons," I heard at a trade conference. "Phoenix Corp keeps showing up wherever they are." I smiled and said nothing. Year 7 was when I met Alex Ibrahim. Tall, brilliant, devastatingly handsome Alex Ibrahim, who ran the biggest construction company in the state. He was everything Daniel wasn't. Kind, honest, completely devoted to me. When he proposed after 2 years of dating, I said yes without hesitation. Not because I loved him. I wish I could say I did, but my heart still belonged to a man who'd thrown me away 10 years ago. I said yes because Alex Ibrahim was Daniel Morrison's biggest business partner, and marrying him would give me access to everything I needed to destroy my stepbrother once and for all. The engagement announcement made the business pages. Phoenix Corp CEO to marry Ibrahim construction founder. I wondered if Daniel saw it, if he made the connection. Joy Ibrahim, CEO of Phoenix Corporation. Joy Morrison, the adopted sister he'd banished in disgrace. Probably not. Men like Daniel Morrison don't pay attention to people they consider beneath them. But he was about to. The wedding planning began immediately. Alex wanted something big, traditional, with both families in attendance. Perfect. I suggested we have the engagement dinner at the Morrison family estate, where Alex and Daniel often met to discuss business. "Are you sure?" Alex asked. "I know you don't like talking about your family." I'd told him I was estranged from my adoptive family, that they'd disowned me over some scandal. He'd been supportive without prying, which made me feel even guiltier about using him. "It's time to make peace," I lied. "Family is important." So the invitations went out. The Morrison family, cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of their business partner to Joy Ibrahim, CEO of Phoenix Corporation. I signed my name with a flourish, imagining Daniel's face when he opened the elegant card. The morning of the dinner, I stood in my penthouse apartment, looking at myself in the full-length mirror. The woman staring back bore little resemblance to the broken girl who'd left town 10 years ago. My hair was shorter now, styled in a severe bob that framed my face. I wore a black Armani dress that cost more than I used to make in a month, and diamonds that sparkled like the tears I'd once cried. I looked successful, powerful, dangerous. You look beautiful, Alex said, coming up behind me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, kissed my neck. Are you nervous about tonight? Terrified, I admitted. It wasn't entirely a lie. They're going to love you. No, they weren't. But that was okay. I hadn't come back to be loved. The Morrison estate looked exactly the same. Same perfectly manicured lawn, same imposing columns, same feeling of wealth and privilege that had intimidated me as a 7-year-old. But I wasn't 7 anymore. Alex squeezed my hand as we walked up the front steps. Ready? I nodded, though my heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. Sarah Morrison opened the door and I watched the color drain from her face. She'd aged well, still beautiful at 62, but the shock of seeing me made her look every one of her years. Hello, Mother, I said softly. She gripped the doorframe like she might collapse. Joy. You two know each other? Alex asked, confused. Sarah couldn't seem to find the words. I'm the daughter they threw away, I said, stepping into the foyer. Nothing had changed. Same crystal chandelier, same marble floors, same family portraits lining the walls. Including the ones with me in them, the little girl with pigtails who'd once believed this was her home. James Morrison appeared in the living room doorway, looking older and frilier than I remembered. His face went white when he saw me. Joy, he whispered. What are you doing here? I'm here for my engagement party, I said pleasantly. Alex, I'd like you to meet my adoptive parents, James and Sarah Morrison. Alex looked between us, understanding dawning in his eyes. This is your family? The ones who raised me, yes. Until they decided I wasn't worth keeping. Now wait just a minute, James began, but I held up a hand. Where's Daniel? I'm so looking forward to seeing my stepbrother again. As if summoned by his name, Daniel appeared at the top of the stairs. He'd always been handsome, but success had made him distinguished. Salt and pepper at his temples, expensive suit, confident bearing. He looked like the successful businessman he was. Until he saw me. He froze on the stairs, one hand gripping the banister. For a moment, I saw the boy who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd held me when I cried, who'd kissed me in the garden 10 years ago. Then his face hardened into the cold mask of the man who'd thrown me out. Joy, he said, and my name sounded like a curse. Hello, Daniel. You look well. He came down the stairs slowly, never taking his eyes off me. What are you doing here? I told you. I'm here for my engagement party. Alex, meet my stepbrother Daniel Morrison. Daniel, this is Alex Ibrahim, my fiancé. I watched Daniel's face as the pieces clicked into place. Joy Ibrahim. Phoenix Corporation. The company that had been steadily destroying his business for the past 5 years. You, he breathed. Me, I confirmed. Surprise. The dinner was excruciating. Sarah barely touched her food, James kept staring at me like I was a ghost, and Daniel sat rigid in his chair, answering Alex's attempts at conversation in monosyllables. Only Alex seemed oblivious to the tension, chatting happily about wedding plans and business prospects. So how long have you known Joy? He asked Daniel over the main course. Since she was 7, Daniel replied tightly. And you never mentioned having a sister? She's not my sister. The words hit me like they had 10 years ago, but I was stronger now. I smiled and took a sip of wine. Daniel's right. We're not related by blood. Just by the love we once shared. Daniel's fork clattered against his plate. It must be wonderful to reconnect, Alex continued, oblivious. Joy never talks about her childhood much. I'm sure she doesn't, Daniel said quietly. After dinner, Alex stepped outside to take a business call, leaving me alone with my former family for the first time in a decade. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Why are you really here? Daniel asked finally. I told you. I'm marrying Alex. Do you love him? The question caught me off guard. That's none of your business. You're using him. Just like you used us. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I used you? That's rich, Daniel. Remind me, who threw whom out on the street with nothing but a suitcase? You leaked those photos. I didn't leak anything. The words exploded out of me with 10 years of pent-up rage. I loved you. I loved this family. I would have died before hurting any of you, and you know it. Then who? Marcus Webb, I said quietly. Your business partner. The man who hated me from day one and wanted me gone. He took those photos and leaked them to destroy me. Daniel stared at me. That's impossible. Marcus wouldn't. Wouldn't he? He's been skimming money from your company for years, Daniel. Overcharging for materials, inflating labor costs, pocketing the difference. I have the proof. I pulled out a manila folder and set it on the coffee table. Bank records, invoices, witness statements. Marcus Webb has been stealing from you since the day I left. But you were too busy hating me to notice. Daniel opened the folder with shaking hands. I watched his face as he read, saw the moment he realized I was telling the truth. Why are you showing me this? He whispered. Because I want you to know what you threw away. Not just me, but the truth. The family. Everything. Sarah was crying quietly in her chair. James looked like he'd aged another 10 years. But Daniel just stared at the evidence of his business partner's betrayal. I'm sorry, he said finally. Joy, I'm so sorry. Are you? Because I have a proposition for you. He looked up at me warily. Phoenix Corporation is about to make a hostile takeover bid for Morrison Industries. We have the backing, the shareholders, the legal team. In 6 months, your company will be mine. You can't. I can. And I will. Unless what? Unless you give me what I really want. Which is? I stood up, smoothing down my dress. I want you to feel what I felt 10 years ago. I want you to lose everything. Your business, your reputation, your family's respect. I want you to be nobody, Daniel. Just like you made me nobody. Joy, please. But I'm not completely heartless. I'll give you a choice. Sign over your company to me willingly and I'll let you keep your dignity. Your parents will never know about Marcus's theft, and you can tell people you're retiring early. Or fight me and I'll destroy you publicly. Every dirty secret, every mistake, every weakness will be front-page news. Daniel's face was white. What about Alex? Does he know what you're planning? That was the question I'd been dreading. Alex doesn't know about our history. And he won't as long as you cooperate. You're going to marry him under false pretenses? I'm going to marry him because he's kind and decent and everything you're not. Do you love him? I learned not to love, Daniel. You taught me that lesson very well. Alex returned then, full of apologies for the business call. He looked between our tense faces and frowned. Is everything okay? Everything's perfect, I said, linking my arm through his. We were just catching up on old times. We left soon after, Alex chattering about how nice my family seemed and how glad he was that we were reconciling. I made appropriate responses while my mind raced. The first phase of my plan was complete. Daniel knew who I was, knew what I was capable of. Now I had to wait for his response. It came the next morning. A text message, meet me at Riverside Park, where we used to play. 1 hour. I almost didn't go. What more was there to say? But curiosity won out and I found myself walking the familiar paths where I'd spent so many childhood afternoons. Daniel was sitting on our old bench, the one overlooking the river where he used to push me on the swings. He looked like he hadn't slept, his perfect hair mussed, his expensive suit wrinkled. You came, he said without looking up. You said it was important. It is. He finally looked at me and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Vulnerability. I found Marcus last night. Confronted him with your evidence. And he confessed. Everything. The photos, the theft, all of it. He's been planning to sell his shares and disappear with the money. I sat down on the bench, careful to keep distance between us. How does it feel? Knowing you destroyed your family for a lie? Like I'm dying inside. His voice was barely a whisper. Joy, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I hurt you in ways that can never be healed. But please, don't marry Alex. Why not? He's a good man. Because you don't love him. And he deserves better than to be used as a weapon in your revenge. The words stung because they were true. What I do with my life is none of your concern anymore. Isn't it? You're doing all this because of me. The company, the engagement, the revenge plot. Your whole life is still revolving around me. Don't flatter yourself. Then why haven't you moved on? Why haven't you found someone who makes you happy? Why are you still so angry after 10 years? I stood up abruptly. Because you took everything from me. My family, my home, my future. You made me believe I was loved and then you threw me away like garbage. I was scared. Daniel shot to his feet, his composure finally cracking. I was scared of what I felt for you, scared of what people would think, scared of ruining everything. So I chose the coward's way out and I've regretted it every day since. What you felt for me. He ran his hands through his hair, looking everywhere but at me. You think that kiss meant nothing? You think I married Victoria because I loved her? My heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying I loved you too, Joy. I loved you so much it terrified me. You were supposed to be my little sister, but you were never that. You were everything. And I was too much of a coward to fight for you. The words I'd waited 10 years to hear and they came too late. It doesn't matter now. Doesn't it? Look at what we've done to each other. Look at the people we've hurt. Alex doesn't deserve this. My parents don't deserve this. We're destroying innocent people because we're too proud to admit we still what? He took a step closer, his eyes intense. Still love each other. I backed away like he'd slapped me. No. I don't love you anymore, Daniel. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. Then why are your hands shaking? I looked down and realized he was right. My hands were trembling, my whole body betraying the calm facade I was trying to maintain. Because I'm angry. Are you? Or are you scared? Of what? Of admitting that all this revenge, all this pain, all these years of hating me, it's because you never stopped loving me. You're wrong. Am I? Then go through with it. Marry Alex. Destroy my company. Take your revenge. But look me in the eye and tell me you feel nothing for the boy who taught you to ride a bike, who held you when you cried, who kissed you in the garden 10 years ago. I met his gaze, ready to lie, ready to end this once and for all. But the words wouldn't come. Because he was right. Underneath all the anger and hurt and carefully constructed walls, the love was still there. Buried deep, scarred and twisted, but alive. It doesn't matter, I whispered. We can't go back. No, we can't. But we can go forward. Together. After everything that's happened? After all the lies and betrayal and pain? Because of it. Because we know now what we're risking. Because we know what we lost. I wanted to say yes. God help me, I wanted to throw myself into his arms and pretend the last 10 years had never happened. But the hurt was too deep, the scars too fresh. I need time, I said finally. How much time? I don't know. Maybe forever. Daniel nodded, disappointment clear in his eyes but not surprise. What about the takeover? I'm calling it off. Marcus can face the consequences of his actions without me destroying innocent people in the process. And Alex? That was the hardest question. I have to tell him the truth. All of it. He deserves that much. Will you be okay? The question was so typically Daniel, worried about me even after everything I'd put him through. I don't know. But I'll survive. I always do. The conversation with Alex was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I told him everything. Who I really was, why I'd really agreed to marry him, the whole sordid story of my past with the Morrisons. He listened without interruption, his face growing paler with each revelation. So you never loved me, he said when I finished. I cared about you. I still do. But no, not the way you deserved. And you're still in love with him. Your stepbrother. I don't know what I feel anymore. Alex was quiet for a long time, staring out the window of his office at the city skyline. Finally he spoke. I should hate you. You used me, lied to me, made me fall in love with a woman who was just playing a part. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I don't hate you. Because I understand why you did it. And because I hope you find what you're looking for, Joy. Even if it's not with me. He was too good for me. Too kind, too forgiving. I kissed his cheek one last time and left the ring on his desk. The next 6 months were a blur of lawyers and press conferences and corporate restructuring. I kept my word about the takeover, but the scandal of Marcus Webb's theft and arrest sent Morrison Industries into free fall anyway. Daniel managed to save the company, but just barely. He had to sell off assets, lay off employees, mortgage his own house to keep the doors open. I watched from a distance, resisting the urge to help. This was his battle to fight. We didn't speak during those months. What was there to say? The damage was done, the bridges burned. But I heard things through the business grapevine. Daniel had broken up with his girlfriend, the socialite he'd been dating since his divorce. He was working 18-hour days trying to rebuild what Marcus had torn down. He looked tired, older but determined. Sarah Morrison called me once, 3 months after the engagement dinner debacle. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me," she said, her voice fragile over the phone. "But I needed to tell you how sorry I am. How sorry we all are. It's in the past, Sarah." "Is it?" "Because Daniel isn't the same. He's eaten up with guilt and regret. And you're not happy either, are you? Happiness is overrated. Joy, honey, I know we failed you. We should have fought harder for the truth, should have believed in you. But we were scared and confused and we made terrible choices. But family is about forgiveness. It's about choosing love over pride. I was never really your family. You were the daughter of my heart. You still are." I hung up before I started crying. A year after the engagement dinner, I was in my office late one evening when security called. There was someone to see me, they said. Someone who claimed to be family. I knew who it was before I saw him. Daniel stood in my reception area holding a manila folder and looking nervous. He'd lost weight, I noticed. The stress of rebuilding his company had taken its toll. "Hello, Joy." "Daniel. What are you doing here?" "I have something for you." He held out the folder. "Proof that you were right. About everything." I took the folder but didn't open it. "What kind of proof?" "Marcus kept records. Not just of the theft but of everything. Including the real reason he leaked those photos." "Which was?" "He was in love with you. Had been since you were 18. When you kissed me that night, he saw it as the ultimate betrayal. Not just of the family but of him." I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "He was in love with me?" "Obsessed is probably a better word. He has hundreds of photos of you dating back years. Some of them..." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Some of them were taken without your knowledge. In your bedroom, through your apartment windows. He's been stalking you for over a decade." The folder slipped from my numb fingers. "That's impossible. The FBI is investigating now. Stalking, harassment, corporate espionage. He's looking at serious prison time." "Why are you telling me this?" Daniel sat down across from me, his expression earnest. "Because you deserved to know the truth. All of it. And because I wanted you to understand that everything that happened, it wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. It doesn't change anything. Doesn't it? Joy, we lost 10 years because of that man's obsession. 10 years of hating each other, hurting each other, destroying everything we cared about. Don't you think we've paid enough?" I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in months. He was still handsome, but there was something different about him. A maturity that hadn't been there before. The arrogance was gone, replaced by humility and genuine remorse. "What are you asking me, Daniel?" "I'm asking for a chance. Not to go back to what we were, but to start over. As two people who've been through hell and somehow found their way back to each other. I don't know if I can trust you again." "I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life earning that trust back if you'll let me." "And your parents? The scandal? The fact that people will always see us as the sick siblings who..." "Let them talk. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. The only opinion that matters is yours." I wanted to say yes. Every cell in my body was screaming at me to take the chance, to choose love over fear. But the walls I'd built around my heart were thick and high, constructed from 10 years of pain and betrayal. "I need more time," I said finally. Daniel nodded, disappointed but not surprised. "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe we could start small. Coffee, lunch. See if there's anything left worth saving." "I'd like that." He stood to leave, then paused at the door. Joy? For what it's worth, I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. After he left, I sat in my office until dawn, thinking about choices and consequences, about love and forgiveness, about the girl I used to be and the woman I'd become. Somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten that revenge is a poison that hurts the person who drinks it most of all. Maybe it was time to stop drinking. Our first coffee was awkward. 10 years of hurt and anger don't disappear overnight. But slowly, carefully we began to talk. Not about the past at first, just about safe things. Workbooks, movies. Learning who we'd become in the years we'd spent apart. Daniel was different. The entitled boy I'd grown up with had been replaced by a man who'd learned hard lessons about consequences and responsibility. He talked about the employees he'd had to lay off during the company's restructuring, the guilt he carried about the pain his choices had caused. I used to think I was the hero of my own story, he said during one of our lunches. Now I realize I was the villain in yours. We were all villains in our own ways, I replied. I'm not innocent in this, Daniel. The things I did to your company, the way I used Alex. I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone you didn't want to be. Someone I had to be. To survive. You don't have to be that person anymore. It took months of careful conversations, of rebuilding trust one tentative step at a time. There were setbacks, moments when the old anger flared up, when the wounds felt too fresh to heal. But slowly, gradually, we began to remember why we'd loved each other in the first place. It wasn't the desperate, painful love of our youth. This was something deeper, more mature. Built on understanding and forgiveness rather than need and obsession. The first time Daniel kissed me again, we were walking through Riverside Park, past the bench where we'd had our confrontation a year earlier. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and for a moment I felt like the girl who'd believed in fairy tales. Is this real? I whispered against his lips. As real as anything I've ever known, he replied. We were married 6 months later. A small ceremony, just family and close friends. Sarah Morrison cried through the entire service, tears of joy this time instead of sorrow. James walked me down the aisle, his face beaming with pride and love. Even Alex came, bringing his new girlfriend and genuinely wishing us well. I'm glad you found your way back to each other, he told me at the reception. You were never really mine to keep. The headlines were predictable. Morrison siblings marry in controversial ceremony. Adopted daughter weds stepbrother in family scandal. But we didn't care. We'd learned that other people's opinions couldn't touch what we had. That was 3 years ago. Today I'm 35 and I can honestly say I'm happy. Daniel and I run Phoenix Morrison Industries together, a merger of our companies that surprised everyone in the business world. We have a beautiful daughter named Sarah, after the woman who taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about love. Sometimes, when I'm holding my daughter or watching Daniel play with her in the garden, I think about the path that led us here. All the pain and betrayal, all the years of anger and revenge, all the mistakes that nearly destroyed us both. I used to think that story was a tragedy. Now I see it differently. It's a story about choices, about the power of forgiveness, about the truth that love doesn't always conquer all, but sometimes it conquers enough.